Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Priyanka ji, welcome to the print. There's a lot of concern across the country about the spike in COVID positive cases in Maharashtra, especially in Mumbai. Why this spike there?
So, firstly, I'd like to reassure every single Indian who is worried about my state to be rest assured we know what is happening and we have things under our control. And I'll tell you why. When your entire strategy is on the basis of testing aggressively, identifying and isolating cases, and ensuring that those cases that are identified as COVID positive are treated as to the best of the capacity of the state or the nation at this point in time. And that is why you'll probably see higher numbers. Higher numbers are not something that you should be scared about or something to worry about. Higher numbers would also mean that you are identifying a lot many by going door to door, aggressively testing, and whoever is positive, you are reporting transparently to the center. So this is what is happening. Initially, of course, the scale of the virus was something that nobody across the nation would have realized that would end up becoming such a huge scare for this nation. If you would recall, the flights continued as is. Only when the first lockdown came into place nationally did the flights stop coming to Mumbai. Mumbai is the second biggest airport in India with the second largest traffic. And there are two cities, Delhi and Mumbai also has many more connecting flights domestically which are moving. So as far as we have those areas identified where we see more cases and we build our capacities, I would say that Mumbai as well as the state know how to do this. The idea is to trace, track and treat, and that is what we're doing. And this is a strategy which has been successfully implemented in various countries which have got out of the COVID. Though they showed initial high numbers, but they identify those numbers. So I would just reassure everybody back in the across the nation who keep talking about these numbers that it's not the numbers that should worry us. It should be the ability to be able to manage these numbers, which Maharashtra is doing.
But the main reason for worry as it is the increasing positivity rate in Mumbai. It's about
Yes.
14% today. It's almost double the national rate. So if you're doing enough
So
testing, why is the positivity rate not coming down?
okay, so a couple of things I just like to make you aware of. About mid-April, Mumbai was seeing rise and doubling of numbers every 3 days. We have now changed that, and it's gone, below the national average also. Now we're doubling at 21 days in some wards, which is slightly further ahead also. So doubling of numbers is one way of identifying that we've contained the spread of the virus. The second thing also that we need to keep in mind is that when you talk about the infection rate, yes, the infection rate at this point could look high to you, but we, as long as, like I continue to say, as long as it is something that is in our control, we know that this is the percentage and we have to bring it down. At one point in time, again, I think it was somewhere mid-April or end April, the mortality rate in Mumbai itself was at 7%. We brought it down to 3.2%. So again, positivity rate at this point in time could look higher because testing is happening and there is more, infection spreading. But we are controlling that. And the way to control is when you identify and isolate those particular patients who are even not symptomatic. In most of the cases, above 80% of the cases in Maharashtra that have been coming across to us are asymptomatic cases. So when recovery also happens, there'll be faster recovery. For example, Maharashtra right now has had over 17,000 people who have fully recovered and gone home. While we look at a whole number, what we are not identifying are the active cases which are currently we are working on, which is around 33 odd thousand. The rest have, so recovery rate is also above 25%. So when your testing is almost 15% of the nation's testing, your recovery rate is also at 25%. So I would say that this infection point also will come down, and we are working on it. We identify the loopholes, and we will continue to work towards it.
But Delhi seems to have managed it much better. If you look at the recovery rate in Delhi, it's close to 50%. The number of COVID infections also is just about 17,000 so far.
Yes, so as far as Delhi is concerned, also there you're seeing a different trajectory of Delhi's increase in numbers. In case you look at the tests, also again population. If you look at the population and testing strategy, Mumbai is testing over 12,000 per million, while Delhi is not sharing the numbers right now. But I'm even if you assume it would be
It's
at
about
around
9,000. It's
six
about
to six to
9,000.
9,000 yeah per million.
Hmm.
So look at the testing rate that we are going through. Look at the kind of geographical spread out of the city. Mumbai is far more congested, far more smaller a city with a dense population. Mumbai is one of the most populous cities in the world. So these are a few comparison points which we really need to look at. The geographical spread of Delhi vis-a-vis Mumbai. So you may have issues of social distancing. You would have issues of trying to contain the virus. But again, as long as we've identified those particular zones which are showing more numbers and contain those zones, I would see that we would be able to turn this around. And if you notice, over the past 3 4 days, the numbers have almost been steady around 1,400 is what is being reported. While Delhi is seeing a spike.
That is it.
Yesterday, suddenly overnight, they had over 1,000 cases.
Yes.
So again, it has to do with a lot of testing, lot of tracing, and lots of treating. So that is what we're doing. And I would not want to compare any city with any other city. For that matter, I could start comparing Mumbai with the Gujarat, where Gujarat's mortality rate is sky high, population low, huge numbers, lesser testing happening. So I don't want to get into comparison. Every city has its own challenges. And I can only explain to you what Mumbai's challenges are and how best the government is working to ensure that we can contain the spread of the virus.
What are the challenges you are facing in Mumbai?
Mumbai, like I mentioned, so this is a city which is extremely populous, dense population, huge migrant population that that comes to the city as daily wage laborers as part of the infrastructure building process, etc. Then, of course, the land mass, the land is not as much as the number of people living in that. Just to give you an example, over 58,000 per square kilometer is the population of the city of Mumbai. So while these are not something that we consider a weakness, these are all our positives that we have managed to live up to the dreams, expectations of every migrant, every person who has come to the city of Mumbai with stars in their eyes. However, when you are looking at the patient-doctor ratio, if you're looking at beds per ratio, we are augmenting all our facilities to be able to cater to everyone. So, for example, right now, if you look at the designated COVID hospitals, our CCC facilities, CC1, CC2 facilities, for symptomatic, asymptomatic isolation cases, we have around 71,000 beds. And again, there is transparency in numbers in terms of what is the percentage of occupancy of these beds, what are the ventilators occupied, and what's the percentage ICU facilities. So we have been very transparent. So these are few challenges which any city. Now, again, to give you a comparison, a city like New York saw 22,000 deaths. What is the density of the city? They have around 26,000 people per square mile. So you look at the per capita income of that city is way ahead of the city of Mumbai. If you look at their doctor versus hospital, the bed ratio, again way better than us. But however, it is about containing it. Dharavi happens to be one of those stories. It became the focus point for over 2 weeks for various people, for people reporting it outside of Mumbai. But now Mumbai, Dharavi also has managed to contain it through fever clinics, through door-to-door testing, aggressive testing. So that helps. I mean, those are things that are working in favor of the city, and I would call nothing a weakness. I just say it has a different geographical challenge and people challenge.
Priyanka, you're right. We should not be comparing, but just one factor everybody is talking about, one comparison if you can just draw. The Delhi Chief Minister is far more visible than Maharashtra Chief Minister. Actually, everybody is talking about how the Chief Minister of Maharashtra remains confined to his house, doesn't really venture out. He does his meetings through video conferencing. He's not that visible. And right now,
Um,
just to assure the people, you need to be far more communicative than he is.
I actually find this charge, I'm so sorry, Mr. Singh, quite ridiculous in nature and content. I would want to know how many times have you seen Mr. Arvind Kejriwal? And I don't want to make it a CM to CM comparison, but I just want to understand how many times have you seen chief ministers visiting facilities that they are augmenting? How many times have you seen the chief minister heading to AIMS and figuring out what their issues are? How many times have you seen the chief minister addressing the people of the state and keeping them aware of every single step that is being taken? Let me
Yes.
give you a very small example. Mumbai is giving you ward-wise details that, this is the ward you stay in. If it's a K West ward, these are the number of cases. These are the number of recoveries. If you stay in G South ward, these are the number of cases. Is Delhi doing that for you? No, it's not.
No,
So
transparency.
let's not waste our time in making these meaningless comparisons. And this absolutely unfortunate charge that comes to on our CM's door just because the Bharatiya Janata Party seems to do this on a mass rapid scale than anyone else, and we tend to believe that as the truth. That is unfortunate, incorrect, and not true. Engaging with people and keeping yourself updated should be the chief minister's priority. Which location he is doing it from is, I think, a bit misleading, because he's been also monitoring the facilities, whether it is Bandra Kurla complex, whether it is at the new facility that we are setting up in Mulund, whether it is Goregaon East. He has been there all over the place. He's also been addressing the people. He's been speaking, he's been picking up the phone and speaking to MLAs of the Bharatiya Janata Party to understand if they have any feedback for the state to give. He's been meeting, asking the chief minister, opposition, the former chief minister, the opposition leader right now, Mr. Devendra Fadnavis, if he has any suggestions. We've asked the same to even Mr. Raj Thackeray. We've even asked that to everybody, that if they have any suggestion, we'd ask you, Mr. Singh, if you have any better suggestion for us to get better, we will do it. So these charges I find unfortunate. And as long as we are all in tandem, working together and ensuring that the city comes out of this sooner rather than later, I think we are on the right track.
Are you happy with the support or collaboration that you are getting from the center? Because we have been hearing Railway Minister Mr. Piyush Goyal leveling a lot of charges, like not providing the list of passengers that who had to be transported by train. What happened there?
So, in terms of center, when the Prime Minister announced the lockdown, of course, Maharashtra had started its phase-wise lockdown. It was already in place. However, stopping the trains and flights overnight and giving just 4 hours for all the chief ministers and sealing all borders across the country was something that even the chief minister expressed his concern about to the Prime Minister. However, we took it in the spirit that it should be taken. This is not just a medical crisis of unknown proportion. Till now, nobody knows the severity of this problem. We took it in the spirit of it being a humanitarian crisis, medical crisis, and having to support the center and whatever they support us with. So it had to be a center-state relationship. Politics aside, politics can be done for another day. We have 365 days in a year. If we manage to avoid doing politics for, let's say, 60 days, 90 days, or however many days we need, we can do that. However, we have seen constant attacks coming from the center in terms of support that they owe to Maharashtra. In terms of relief fund, we've got some 1,611 crore in terms of relief fund, which anybody in India would know that it is barely something which can help the state of Maharashtra. In terms of PPE kits that were supplied, they haven't been supplied to us in the quantity that we have asked for. So if we've asked for in lakhs, let's give it a number of 1 lakh, we've got, let's say, 10,000. So just 10% of what you're seeking in terms of help does not help the state of Maharashtra. In terms of augmenting the capacity and capability of the state, it has been the state government. In terms of trains that are running for the migrant laborers, over 8 lakh people have gone back home. Every single migrant was supported by the state government. The amount for the ticket was borne by the Chief Minister's Relief Fund. So any augmentation of capacity that is happening from state funds. And the last thing I'd like to tell you is about the GST that the state government has been speaking about, that the GST that is owed to us should come back to us for us to be able to sustain. So what Mr. Piyush Goyal, which is very unfortunate, did was being from Maharashtra, being a Rajya Sabha MP representing Maharashtra in the center, as well as having this additional responsibility of the cabinet, he made this extremely political, something that the chief minister said that we are capable of handling. We are capable of handling 80 trains a day, but we are running at a capacity of 40. It was just a means of telling the people of the state that this is where we stand, letting the migrants know this is what is happening. If anyone would have observed his speech, he was speaking about the capacities that has been built across the state, where the numbers stand, what are the recoveries, etc. For him to make this political was extremely unfortunate, and at a time when the migrants haven't been able to reach home even after 4 days, after 5 days, they're surviving without food, without water inside the trains. Over 200 trains have been delayed. It has been 40 trains have lost their way. People have lost their life. 9 lives have been lost in 48 hours. And yet you're busy politicking. You're just sending trains without informing the states. And even not just the state of Maharashtra, even West Bengal chief minister has said the same thing, that trains have come to their stations without even keeping the state in the loop. So this is not how center-state relationships work. This is not how the federal structure works. It works out on mutual respect, on mutual terms and conditions, which from Maharashtra state government has been in totality to the center. We expect the same treatment coming from the center back to us. So the Prime Minister has taken all our feedback in the right spirit, and it would do even all the cabinet ministers. It will do them well if they follow the lead of the Prime Minister.
Just to make a small digression, just one question. We heard the Shiv Sena chief, the chief minister, reassuring migrants time and again, if you stay here in Mumbai, we'll do everything for you. Now it's quite a departure from what the Shiv Sena used to be. Its original ideology, when it was founded in 1960s, it was supposed to be an anti-migrant party, so to say.
Every political party has to match up to the aspirations of the people it serves. And it has to change as per the need of the time. Every decade of every political party, leaving a few parties which refuse to change, I will not get into that space, but every political party has changed as per the expectations, aspirations of the people they serve. And what was the politics of 60s cannot necessarily be the politics of 80s. What was the politics of 80s may not necessarily be the politics of the 21st century. So you need to evolve with time. And I think Shiv Sena, in terms of understanding how political parties need to involve, how they shape the discourse of a state, how they match up to the aspirations of the people of the state, I would say, it has been more hands-on. And as far as migrants are concerned, let's be very clear, the state's responsibility, the state does understand that they have been builders of our states, builders of what we stand for today, where Maharashtra stands today. Maharashtra stands tall on the back of work of every single person who made this their home. So we do understand that. And at a time of a crisis, I believe that every hand on board is how the chief minister has approached it, and that is how it should be. He's been more humanitarian about this crisis. His approach has been more humanitarian, and he's kept every politics aside and every personal differences aside, to ensure that no human being in Maharashtra suffers the consequences of not having adequate food, not having adequate support, not having adequate policies in place. So this is something that has come upon us, and we will treat it with the dignity it deserves.
Would it be fair to say that the Shiv Sena is also undergoing some kind of ideological evolution, and the Shiv Sena under Uddhav Thackeray is not the same what it was in the Bal Thackeray?
No, I think Shiv Sena's evolution, if you would say evolution, I would say that it is, like I said, you change as per the aspirations of the people. But what we stand for, what our roots stand for, which is about Hindutva, it is not going to go away. When we asked for a Ram Mandir, we took that battle. We continue to say that let it be passed in the parliament if the Supreme Court is not being able to take a decision. However, we welcomed when the Supreme Court took that decision of building a Ram temple and judging in the favor of a Ram temple being built. It was Shri Uddhav Thackeray ji who first went to Ayodhya after this judgment. We became the first political party who donated towards the building of Ram temple. And I'm 100% certain we'll be the first party which will do the first puja when the Ram Mandir is launched. So we are just, our basic core values do not change. Our basic identity of who we are will not change. And Hindutva is about this, assimilating everybody in its fold, not creating divisions. We have seen a very different idea of Hinduism being created. We need to change that, because Hinduism believes and Hindutva believes in respecting all. When we talk about Vasudeva Kutumbakam, that is something that came from our values. That has been a civilizational value. So when you see a different idea being given, connotation being given by a particular party, which creates divide, which creates a problem, is something that perhaps is not acceptable to the Shiv Sena as we stand today.
So, were you happy to see the Deputy Chief Minister and NCP leader Ajit Pawar garlanding the portrait of Vijay Savarkar?
In Maharashtra, he's a revered figure. In Maharashtra, people look up to him. In Maharashtra, every single home respects what he stands for and what he stood for. So, in terms of whether it is Ajit Pawarji or whether it is any other Congress member for that matter, you will see for yourself that in Maharashtra, nobody will be allowed to say anything against Veer Savarkar ji. So I would just say that it is something that you have to look beyond ideology, but it should be something that is looked from a more emotional connect that people have with a figure who came from Maharashtra, who gave a lot many years in the jail as far as the freedom movement is concerned, or his fight against the British is concerned. So you have to look at it from a different angle when you are in Maharashtra. You'd understand that it's something where Maharashtra feels that he's a very misunderstood figure.
Coming to the coronavirus crisis, we heard a lot about what Maharashtra is doing on the public health front in terms of mitigating the crisis. But the state makes a significant contribution to the country's GDP. We haven't really heard much of a kind of roadmap to revive the economy there. And in fact, the finance minister has hardly spoken on this.
That is, I would say, that is for the finance minister of this country to answer as to how they can best revive the economy. But in Maharashtra is very prepared in terms of how to go ahead. We, under Chief Minister Uddhav Sahib Thackeray ji, we've created an economic task force, which is various other economists like Ajit Ranade. So we have a lot, Mr. Deepak Parekh. They are all part of this economic task force who are going to be steering a roadmap for Maharashtra to revive its economy post COVID. Let me also tell you that many small industries and medium scale industries have already begun work in the green zones and the orange zones, keeping the protocol of standard operating procedure in mind to ensure that COVID spread does not happen. Many of the migrants who are looking at going back home chose not to go back home and have gone back to work in these areas. It is Mumbai per se and the MMR region plus Pune which haven't opened up fully. But it is a matter of time once we are extremely confident that we have the numbers in control, the numbers are now flattening. That is when even Mumbai will open up. So Maharashtra is open to business. We are aggressively also speaking to overseas businesses who are looking at moving their business out of China. We've also created a task force which is dealing with international businesses. So whether the in the country's finance minister's mind, Maharashtra comes to her policy shaping, etc. No, but what she cannot escape with is the reality that Maharashtra is the growth engine of the country, and but Maharashtra understands its commitment to the nation. Will continue working towards it.
What about the state finance minister? He has been completely silent.
No, I don't think so. Maybe you miss his press conferences or his press releases or when he speaks about what support he's seeking from the center. In fact, Shri Ajit Pawarji has written to the center also in terms of the support that we are seeking from the center. Of course, the GST aside, we've also asked them for a 50,000 crore package to be able to help Maharashtra tide over this particular crisis, because Maharashtra has been the biggest contributor to the economy. So Maharashtra does deserve some support coming from the center. So he has been speaking about it. He's been also conducting regular meetings. We've been having inter-party meetings, which he's been a part of. There are several meetings which he has conducted as the Deputy Chief Minister. So I think this entire perception that people try to send across is absolutely incorrect and untrue, that we do not see support, there's internal bickering. That's absolutely incorrect.
Really, last question. There was a lot of curiosity about Sharad Pawar's visit to the Raj Bhavan. After that, of course, he met the chief minister. What happened? What transpired there?
I think he himself has answered that question because it was, again, because permutations, combinations lead to some other ideas. But he himself said that it was a courtesy visit. He hadn't met the governor ever since the governor had taken on his role, and since the government was formed. So he wanted to meet him, paid a courtesy visit, and they had a good conversation about Mumbai, Maharashtra, and how to take this forward together.
So all this is speculation about the stability of the government, the question mark whether everything is okay with the government.
You know, this question of stability of the government comes from unstable minds and those unstable people who do not know where their political careers are heading, and they are insecure, even being opposition parties at this point of time. So those are those, I would say, insecure minds, unstable political careers who will come forward and continue to question the stability of the government. The government is doing just fine, and it has managed, despite all odds, despite all the attack, despite all the targeting, it is managing to do well.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure as always listening to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.